further quote from Arthur C. Clarke, which is maybe a little bit overused, but any advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. What we're saying here is not magic in the sense that we don't know how these things work, but we've actually reached a point now where both the tools are sufficiently sophisticated, and also the user community is sophisticated. I mean, you have people now customizing their Facebook pages. People are not reading newspapers. They're customizing RSS feeds. They're watching television shows on their own schedule. I mean, we really have a technically savvy audience. People are very comfortable with technology now, and this is a great time for Mashups to allow them to potentially self-service and build some of their own solutions. For the layperson, though, I think it's more important to stress that what can Mashups do, not what Mashups can accomplish technically, but why should I care? What can Mashups do for me? And usually that starts out with just a simple question like, well, what business problems do you have? What unmet what unmet needs do you have that maybe IT isn't fulfilling, or in light of diminished resources are not being met? IT is very good at building a system the right way, super scalable, reliable, available, maintainable. And sometimes, for business opportunities, the users just need something quick to solve a problem. And I think Mashups are kind of becoming a disruptive force in rewriting some of these rules and helping IT be more productive and helping users get solutions more quickly. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the accessibility pattern. And a lot of times we think about accessibility in the sense of ADA compliance and, adding support to websites to make them friendly to screen readers or screen magnifiers. But accessibility also applies just as well to deploying applications, extending applications to new platforms, and ideally without requiring the original developers. We want to briefly touch on essentially what's two patterns in one: location mapping and emergency response. Location mapping is really the classic mashup that everyone thinks about. It's something on a Google map. It's cheap gas prices near me, or good restaurants near me. There are more practical examples or more enterprise-worthy examples that we can show, and we're going to demonstrate one of them. It's frequently very necessary to put an application together very quickly. And as I mentioned, IT's greatest strength is its greatest weakness sometimes. IT generally only knows how to build things the right way, and sometimes what the users need is right now, and nowhere is that more prevalent than an emergency situation. Another pattern is super search. So a lot of applications have embedded search functionality, but it's embedded specifically to that particular application's function. And frequently, maybe if a customer calls up and you look up their information in one system, and then they ask about their order, so you look it up in another system, and then you go over to the inventory, you look up the tracking system. What you can do with Mashups are you can basically combine all these disparate searches into a variety of applications specific to the task at hand. But the idea behind the super search pattern is to unify all these things and prevent against that, what we call that swivel chair automation, people switching between applications, and just save that mental task switching that goes on and give people all the information they need at once. I think the last one that I want to talk about today, so we can leave some time for Q&A, is translation. So translation, again, we think of translation often as just translating something into a different language. And that is obviously, that is definitely completely within the realm of Mashups. What I'm concerned about in this example, though, is not translation of language, but translation of intention.
We've had the opportunity to work pretty closely with Boeing over the years, and one of the things that they talked to us about was the issue of emergency response. And this, was after the time of Katrina, when everyone was talking about what could we have done better, what went wrong, and what kinds of solutions might have been useful for us at that time. And one of the things that they were trying to figure out quickly was how to move resources around the country. And so the concept came up, gee, wouldn't it be cool if a person who was trying to coordinate something very quickly in the field had a way of producing an application that was able to coordinate the activities and provide information from a wide variety of sources that might otherwise not be able to come together. And here is my mashup. So it works the same way as it does anywhere else, where I can then select one of these people, the vibrating icon tells me that this particular widget has received information. I can look at the navigation. I can look at the navigation information here, click OK, and it will then show me the map that shows me how to get from point A to B. So the point here, as Mike said, is that there's no coding involved here. The widgets are written and standardized such that they are portable across platform, and you can have an icon associated with that content so that if you use it on a phone, the information is automatically transcoded and put in a form that allows it to be immediately used with zero programming by the user, and any end user could do this. The dirty secret about mashups is that they're only as good as the content and the widgets that they have available to work with. So what you see in front of you here is what I like to call an ecosystem enabler, in that its job is to facilitate the collection and reuse of all of the information that is accessible to individuals within the enterprise.
I think a lot of folks are probably, anybody in the the IT development space is familiar with going out and maybe taking some open source packages and incorporating in their application and thinking, okay, I'm getting reuse here. I went out and I downloaded Log4j off the net. I put it in my app. That's great. But it's really that's kind of a dead end for reuse. I mean, oftentimes the most common form of reuse is like single reuse, and some code might get pasted into an application, and then that application doesn't expose. It might add some functionality. It might use that code in a certain way, but it doesn't get re-exposed, and so the value add kind of drops off the map there. And what you've seen in the demos that John has shown is that he's constantly reusing these different widgets that he's built up before. And as he showed you with the SMS example, he could have gotten that example which didn't have the send SMS functionality, and he could have added it himself. Mashups are inherently reusable and can be used as the basis of other mashups. So that's where we get into what I like to call the virtuous circle of mashups in the book, which is when you solve a problem, it's not just a question of, okay, I've solved this particular problem and I've put it out there and I've developed this line of business specific application, and the next time I'm going to start from scratch completely again. No, you've actually laid the groundwork for the next solution, and whether or not a person incrementally adds on to that solution makes it better, or just takes pieces of that solution and reassembles them into something completely new, you're actually getting true reuse, and that's a way that mashups sort of again stretch your IT spend and your dollar a lot farther.